Tapu, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Arun Nefer. This is Kasank Ma Keperu, and may Ra's light sharing down upon you. I am here with another video. Now, I want to thank you for joining me. If this is your first time to my channel, hit the welcome button, or welcome, I should say. There's a welcome button, but hit the subscribe button to get notifications of when I go live or when I upload new videos. And I want you to consider becoming a Patreon supporter. You can do so for as little as $1 or $5 per month. And in this video, I want to talk about the principles behind how a ritual works. Now, when I first got into the priesthood, we were doing a lot of rituals, but no one told me, like, why did certain things work? And consequently, I was going through the motions without a deeper understanding of what it was all about. And that played a direct role into the effectiveness of the ritual, whether or not I was able to manifest the objective or what I was going for, whether it was money, whether it was another 3 wives, or what have you. So what I'd like to do today is kind of depart from my normal type of videos to give you a behind-the-scenes look, like the making of a ritual, so that you can understand when you are doing your rituals, what goes into those rituals and why you're doing certain things. Now, as you know, I focus a lot on reality manifestation. And I don't go too deeply into the performance of an elaborate ritual because it takes a lot of time and effort. But this is something that you should be focusing on because it's very important, because when you perform these rituals, you will see an effect. You'll see something that will manifest before your eyes, and it will be extraordinary. And it's something that you're going to realize that you have power. Reality transurfing or the law of attraction, all that stuff is great, and it can get you to where you need to go. But when you're actively performing a ritual, you're going to see powerful results. And there are certain limitations to working on things like slides or the law of attraction, meaning that you're going to encounter obstacles where you may need to invoke a spirit or a deity to assist you, or to get in contact with an interdimensional being that can help you and assist you, because there are some things that are beyond your ability to handle from the reality transurfing and law of attraction or the secret technique. So you need to get into or go into your bag, your magical arsenal, and pull out something different, which is the performance of an elaborate ritual. And that will take you to the next level in your studies as a magi. Okay? Now, as I said before, when I was in priesthood and we were doing these rituals, we were just told, like, this is how you perform a ritual with Sebek. This is how you perform a ritual for Hedaru. This is how you perform a ritual with Ma'at. But for some reason, the high priest never got into the mechanics of it, because I always wondered, well, why is it necessary to have a drum at the ritual? Why is it necessary that we have an incense? Why is it necessary that, for example, we have certain fetishes? And this is what they're called fetishes. So those were never explained to me. But when I started doing the rituals years later, and it took several years, the realization came to me and the understanding came to me of why these things were important. But I don't want you to have to go through that trial and error period or go through years of doing rituals for it to dawn on you in that aha moment to where you now realize, oh, this is why I'm doing this. You know, because what it's going to do is going to place limitations around how much power you can summon. Because when your faith and belief is bestowed upon something, when it's instilled in something, there's more power there. And the faith and belief comes from, in my opinion, 2 things. One, reference experience. Can you look back and see that you have done this ritual and it has manifested the results you're looking for? And really, Uh, Number two, an understanding of why it works, the mechanics behind it. Those are the two things I think will build your faith in something. And this is what I want to give you here today. And with this knowledge, it's going to take you further by leaps and bounds when you decide to perform a ritual on your own. And now, as I've gotten a bit older and a bit cuter and a bit wiser, I am realizing the power in a ritual. You see, I think what has happened is for a lot of magicians or spiritualists or occultists, we have been taught to shy away from doing rituals because of ceremonial magic and things of that nature coming out of the Golden Dawn, because their rituals were elaborate. I mean, really elaborate, almost akin to theatrical stage plays. So a lot of people would shy away from that because they don't have time to go out there and get the magical robe, the magical scepter, the magical wand, the magical knife, the earth element, the fire element, the water element. They don't have time to do all of that. And then they don't have time to draw the circle, walk counterclockwise, step with the left instead of the right foot. They don't have time to do all of that. It's very involved. So a lot of people have shied away from that. So what we need to do is start to go back towards that because it can prove highly effective. Now, let me take a step back for a little bit of a understanding of certain things. We don't realize the power that we have. And I don't just mean as God men, God women that resides within us, but the power that we can invoke through a ritual. We don't realize the power of that. And because we don't realize that power, we manifest a reality that is contrary to what we want and that kicks our ass. In fact, I was talking to some young fellas, because I'm an OG, some young fellas today, and they were talking about Cuba Gooding, who was accused of, I guess, groping a woman. And one of the things that I tried to communicate with went over their head, because they are trapped in 3D thinking. So they don't get it. They're trapped in duality thinking, where you're confined to playing a role, whether it's good or bad, Democrat, Republican, male, female, what have you. And I was trying to get them to understand that you're a consciousness and you're beyond that. But the more important part was I was trying to get them to understand that when you speak things and when you say things, you're commanding the spirit to manifest those things. So when a woman says, well, men are dumb and childish, what she's communicating to the spirit is, I want you to manifest more men that are dumb and childish. Do you understand? So we have to have an understanding of how this matrix works and why we're in the situation we're in. So I try to communicate to these young fellows that you're putting yourself in a prison. You're imprisoning yourself because you lack an understanding of self and how what you think and what you say commands the spirit to manifest that within the matrix. So when you hold these belief systems of I'm right, he's wrong, or the Me Too movement is wrong, or Trump is wrong and I'm right, then you are creating those circumstances within this holographic experience to have. But yet you say you don't want those experiences. Then what you have to do is you have to drop back and say to yourself, I won't play this game. I won't pick a side. I'll be indifferent to the experience. I will be at peace. I will be osir. And when you're indifferent to the experience, the matrix has nothing to manifest because you have not placed a label or definition onto any one thing, because life is meaningless. Nothing has a quality in and of itself. That's what Tahuti tells us. But these young fellas, so steeped in their own ignorance, were trying to chastise me and tell me I'm wrong. I said, I'm not wrong because I'm not imprisoned in I'm not a prisoner of my own will. You're a prisoner of your own will. Because the more you speak, the more you create a reality that you don't want, and you don't even realize it. That is a dichotomy. And how could you not see that? There's a real gap in your logic that you can't see it. The very thing that you're saying is manifesting the thing that you don't want. Yet you cannot see it because your third eye is not open. When I say that women are lovely, what I am telling the indwelling intelligence within me is to manufacture more women in this fourth dimensional experience that are lovely. That's exactly what I'm telling it. When I make a mistake on a test or on a project I'm working with, and I say to myself, man, I'm stupid, I am commanding the spirit to lower my IQ level. So we have to be careful of this because that's how powerful we are. The redundancy and the consistency of how we think and what we say creates the holographic experience. And you don't believe that it creates that because you're not looking at it carefully. Because as I said before in my last video, if you are aware of what's going on, all you need to do is wink at reality, and reality will wink back at you. The matrix will wink back at you to let you know, I'm here. I am doing your bidding. Tell me what to manifest. Well, I want you to manifest the fact that I'm unlucky, that I'll never get my promotion at work, that I'll never get a beautiful woman, even though I have 5 or 6 beautiful wives. But anyway, that's the saying hypothetically. But anyway, I digress. This is what you're telling yourself. When you say to yourself, oh, those niggers, why can't those niggers get their act together? Or when you say, oh man, it's the white man that's holding us down, what you're commanding to the spirit is saying is empower the white man to be able to hold you down. That's what you're saying. And the matrix will comply. The matrix is not discerning. It's not going to sit there and think, well, maybe he doesn't want this, so let me give him that. The matrix is not going to do that. It's going to give you what you believe, your belief system, what you feel, your emotions is going to give you that. Now, with that said, as I'm just setting up the stage here, there are some things now that will require you to do a ritual in order to overcome. Because there are certain challenges that will come your way that are very, very difficult. And we can look at some of these challenges as, on a wide level, as racism. Racism is, the reason you're experiencing that is because we have made an agreement to experience that. So you're going to get hit with a lot of that, whether you like it or not. And that's not because, not necessarily because you command the matrix to manifest that. No, that's, you see, not all things you're manifesting. There are some things that are the consensus agreement. And so we have to all experience those things because in some way, shape, or form, they are serving our spiritual development. But if you're suddenly at a job and get fired due to sexual discrimination or your job is sexist or whatever, then you'll need to work on doing a ritual. Because that's a bigger issue than just what's going on with you and your 3D, third dimension experience. It has a tie-in to something bigger. Nikki, the consensus agreement is decided by all of us. We come together collectively and we agree that we're going to face certain challenges. This happens in the inner planes before we incarnate onto this level of existence, the space-time continuum. So we come together, we agree, and all of us take on certain roles. We decide that we'll have this role, that role, whether it be the protagonist, the antagonist. So those things, right, prior to reincarnation, exactly. So In that sense, you may need to start to do a ritual to invoke, like I said, a deity or a spirit that can help you to overcome those things that you're faced with, because they may be too big for you to handle on your own. You understand what I'm saying? When my wives get together and they plot on ambushing me as soon as I get home from work because I didn't do the dishes, that's too big for me to handle. You know what I'm saying? So I need some backup. So I got to invoke Ma'at. Now I can't invoke Ma'at because the Ma'at will chastise me because she's the goddess of righteousness and truth, and I'm wrong in this situation because I should have did the dishes. Okay, anything. Um, anyway, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. And this is part of your journey as a magi. You will need to get what we call as a grimoire. And what that is, it's like a compendium that has different spirits or elementals or intelligences, however you want to call it, that govern certain specific things in the universe. There is an intelligence that governs music, another one that governs mathematics, another one that governs love, another one that can make you handsome like me. There's all of these ones out there. So when you are facing a situation, maybe you're getting sued, you know, so you need some help from a legal perspective. Get yourself a lawyer, but then go get the grimoire and find out which spirit can make you victorious in court, and then perform a ritual of evocation to that spirit. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of the inner workings of how you have to perform it, but I will give you the tools that you'll need and why those tools work. I would recommend you start out small, experiment with a ritual, small, and then work your way up to a bigger and bigger ritual, and you're going to see magnificent results. Stuff that's just going to blow your mind. One of the results that I saw were two things. Number one, this is when I first started out as a magi. I was an initiate, and I invoked a spirit that came into my apartment I was living at the time and totally freaked me out. And that was the first incident. And the second one was when I summoned a demon. Because I didn't believe that, there was demons. I didn't believe in that. And I invoked a demon, and he came into my apartment, and I was like, whoa, playtime is over, Kassan. This is real. That's when I knew that and I'm speaking to those who are the oppressed and disenfranchised, that we are prisoners of our own making. This thing that we call the Illuminati, the Cabal, the ruling elite, could be gone tomorrow if we got our minds straight. But we're not. We're all are operating on different frequencies and different levels, and we're not aligned. And that's part of the problem. So let's get into this. You have a situation, the scenario comes up that you have a challenge that's going on in your life, and you need to overcome it. And let's just say, hypothetically, someone has done you wrong, okay? And whatever it is. So you want to deal with this person from a high spiritual perspective, meaning you go and do the ritual. Before I go into this, let me greet the Magi's. Hetepu, Suan, Gomes, Ashley Gomes, Hetep, Michael Scott, Harun Nefer, good to see you, Michael. Spiritual Elevation, Namaste, Monique, Hetepu, good to see you, Monique. All right, Nikki, always great to see you. Harun Nefer. Now, one of the first things that you've got to have in your ritual is one of the Hermetic principles, which states is the law of correspondence, like attracts like. So if you want something, put that on your altar. If I am trying to attract money, a lot of money, put a $5 bill on the altar. Put a dollar bill on the altar. The law of correspondence, like attracts like. The next thing you're going to need to do is very important, is you need to build up the electromagnetic field of the energy on the altar. And this comes from doing things such as putting stones, all right, on the altar, crystals, and these stones and crystals and herbs that align with what you want. So you need to get stones that attract money. You need to get herbs that attract money, things like that. Or in the case of dealing with someone, or you have a court case, you have to get those stones and those herbs that specifically relate to being victorious against your enemy or being victorious in a legal situation. The next thing is very important that the ancestors did was you need to make sure that during this ritual process that you get yourself into an alternate state of consciousness, because if you do the ritual in a certain waking state of consciousness that you're in now, it's not going to be effective. You must go into an alternate state of consciousness. This is why when you see our ancestors or the shaman and the medicine men, they always they would drink or they would smoke a cigar or special weed or herb that would take them into a different level, because that's how you really gain power over something, is to turn inward to the right brain. The next thing is when I talked about the drums and the rhythm of music really encapsulates this. It captivates, I should say, which is a better word, the spirit within you, because you need to invoke the Ra Kundalini Chi force, because that energy will then be redirected into the objective. And the way to do that is sometimes through music, which is why many of the rappers and the famous musicians you see today are reincarnated souls of priests that existed in ancient times, back in antiquity, that they had mastered music back then, and they're coming back to replay that out again in this lifetime. This is why they're rich and successful, because they did in the past life. But what we don't understand is the vibration of the frequency of music, of those tones, could also be used in a myriad of different ways to increase your intelligence, to take you to an alternate state of consciousness, to meet interdimensional beings, or to communicate with ETs. To make you a master mathematician, to make you a master astronomer. Those frequencies can be embedded within the music itself to put you there. But the modern musicians or entertainers and singers are part of an industry that is so corrupted, they have removed that knowledge from music, the music industry. Because the music industry is governed by the goddess Heru, Hathor. And she is also the goddess of healing, because music can heal you. So that music or the drums or the beat can sway the spirit into the alternate state of consciousness. And as I said, taking that further, if you understand the different frequencies, you can dial in the right frequency to heal somebody, to, like I said, make them excel in their chosen field. Next, in your altar, you need to include the incense, the colors of the spirit that you're trying to invoke or the deity that you're trying to work with, because that's bombarding your senses. And the senses are the senses are in a way make something a reality for you. That sense perception helps build upon making something more real to you. And the next thing you want to do is making sure you do your ritual in alignment with the correct time and date. This is the cycles. There are cycles for everything. This may not be the cycle to attract money. This may not be the cycle to invoke legal retribution. So you have to understand that. That comes from understanding of astrology. And sometimes it can be just plain as simple as, is this the deity's day? Thursday is Ma'at. Tuesday, you have Harukuhuti. Monday, you have Oset. Sunday, you have Haru. Saturday, you have Sekert. So just making sure that you do your ritual on the day of the deity that you're trying to petition to gain favor and get your help. Symbology is next, which is very important. Let's say, for example, hypothetically, if I wanted to do a ritual where I wanted to exact revenge on somebody and I wanted them to break a limb, I would include on my altar chicken bones. And then I would pick up the chicken bones and I would break them, which is a symbol and metaphor for that individual breaking their bones. Same thing you see in voodoo of the voodoo doll, which is going back to the law of the correspondence, the Hermetic law, is that is a representation of the person themselves. So when you're sticking a pin in them or you're doing something to them, that person will in turn feel that if you are doing your ritual correctly. One of the most powerful things that you can do, too, I'm going to give you this little secret, is to seek out a ley line when you're doing your ritual. And what is a ley line? So a ley line basically is an area in your geographical location that has a lot of energy. And those who are practicing black magicians will go to these ley lines to summon demons. But you can go to these certain ley lines that are within your area to invoke, like one ley line can be good to do a ritual to attract money. Another one could be to attract a job. So you'll have to do some research. One of the reasons why I relocated myself was because I wanted to relocate to an area that had a very strong ley line. The pyramids are built on ley lines in Kemet because they're channeling power through that pyramid. So Nikki is asking, what about the karma energy behind breaking folks' bones? Of course, there's going to be karma. Well, we don't call that karma. You know what I mean? I don't want to say it's karma energy, but you have to be very careful. I'm just giving you an example, and I am not saying you should be going out there and trying to break people's bones. You know what I mean? Because that's definitely what you don't want to be doing. I'm assuming that you are all of such a high spiritual caliber that you won't do something like that. Okay? I'm just giving you an example based on what has been done previously. But everything that I do is more so geared toward helping that person come into a realization of the wrong that they did, and then they will turn over a new leaf, and they will then work with me in a very harmonious way. This is why I work with the idea of balance, not retribution or not or revenge and things of that nature. But if you choose that, you have a free will. God is not going to stop you and say, "Thou shalt stop and break neither thy bones." God's not going to do that because you are God, and God respects you as a God. And he will never stop you, or she will never stop you from doing that. So if you want to go out there, and if you feel that this person has transgressed and done something so bad as to warrant you breaking their bones, then go ahead. That's up to you. I'm merely, when we talk about magic, there's no black magic. There's no good side of force. There's a dark side of force. It's all the same energy. It's how you choose to use it. All right. And again, as I started out this broadcast, and I said, we're not going to subscribe to labels and terms and definitions. I'm not going to say that what you're doing is bad. I don't know your situation. The only one that can judge is the great oracle of Tahuti, the oracle of Thoth, or Hermes. Let the oracle judge you in your actions. Now, spiritual elevation says, I do spells every day and they come true. I'm very powerful. Now, which is another thing I want to talk about is incantation and spells. They should be, and I found it works the most, is rhythmic. And I used to write poetry in this life, and also I found out I wrote poetry in my past life. So if you can write your spells in a rhythmic fashion, or if they rhyme, that too will invoke and move the spirit to help manifest what you want, your desire. Which is why The greatest assault that we're getting today is to the rap industry because they're using the lyrics, the rap itself, to do harm. Because it is such a great art form that has been corrupted. It's a great art form that has come back and revisited us from those practitioners who were masters of it in a previous life, and now they've come back to corrupt the planet with it. But if you want to put together your own spells, and I put together my own spells or incantations or what have you, make sure that they rhyme because that's going to move your spirit. And anything that moves the spirit. Let me tell you something. If you're at a, say for example, if you go to a dance and you are feeling the music and you're feeling the energy, and if you have a certain thought, you're challenging that. You're channeling that energy into that thought, and that's giving legs to something. That means more than likely it's going to manifest. This is why we as a planet, our progress is so retarded. We don't really understand the science that was left behind by our ancestors, that the arts itself can be a means to save the planet. If we really understood that, the entertainment industry would change the way what it's doing. But it won't, because Hollywood is connected to the special interest groups like Tavistock in England, and they take their directions from these special interest group and the special interest group like Tavistock take their direction from the Illuminati. So don't think all this is just by coincidence, or there's all this freedom that everybody. Artists don't have freedom. They don't have freedom. The top artists out there who are making millions of dollars or even hundreds of millions of dollars are specifically chosen, and they make a pact to do certain things so that the planet can be led into death and damnation. Now, if you understand this little bit that I've given you about how these tools work in a ritual, you will be able to really do some effective stuff. And as I said, I prescribe that you start out small and then work your way up, because what's going to happen is when you're doing these things on a very small level, you're going to have spirits that are going to come to you and communicate directly with you and give you information how to take it to the next level. You don't need a book. You don't need a guru or guide like me to come and teach you. Those spirits will work with you if you're open and receptive to it. And if you really want to learn this stuff, and if you really want to take back your power, they will work with you. This is why I talk about how when you read books on certain things, don't read the books, but re-experience it. Throw yourself into trance and time travel to a specific period in history and experience it for yourself. Well, you can do this. Why do you think they outlawed DMT and ayahuasca? Because they don't want you understanding that those medicines, those herbs, can have you time travel without a time machine. And once you discover that fact, then the power gets back into your hands and not theirs. Now, go out there and buy some books on performing a basic ritual, because there's some things you're going to need to do. You need your candles. You have to draw your magical circle. And, there's other mechanics to it that I don't have time to explain. If you want to know more about that, then become a Patreon supporter, and I'll be going into the details about putting together an altar, how to do the evocation and evoke a spirit that you may find in the grimoire. And I'm going to be honest with you. I know a lot of black magicians who, when things get out of hand, they invoke demons to deal with people. They invoke demons and send these demons on assassinations to get rid of people. So when you see people in the news who suddenly go crazy and shoot up everybody or kill themselves, you have to take into account that they may be doing this because some black magician has invoked a demon that has influenced those individuals to do certain things. Now, some people may ask, well, why hasn't we invoked demons to get rid of, or spirits to get rid of Don Trump or certain people? Well, that's because if you really understand how things work, individuals like Trump were pre-selected by the cabal, the ruling elite, and they have a spirit protecting him. He's protected. In the same way, if you think that you're being assaulted by individuals physically or of a spiritual nature or of a psychic attack, you can evoke a spirit that can give you protection. Just like in the same way, for example, if you feel like for my mother was afraid of planes, right? She was afraid to fly, and I would invoke a spirit that would give her protection. And I would say, this spirit will be with you on all plane rides that you take. You will never crash, so you need not worry. In the same way, there were generational curses. And the priests in Kemet, if you did something wrong, they could place a curse on you that would span the number of generations, so that children would be born with this curse or this entity attached to them, so that nothing would go right in their life. If you go back to the story of Akhenaten, who practiced Aten, the sun, he almost demilitarized Kemet to the point of opening up to foreign invasion. So the priest said, no, you got to go, you and your passive attitude, and you and your foreign wife, you got to go. So if you look into the Metu Neter, the hieroglyphics, the stones, you will see no more mention of Akhenaten. Why? It seemed like he just disappeared from the planet because the priest of Kemet got rid of him. They dealt with him using magical means. We have not, as a people, evolved to such a level to where we understand that in order to get ourselves out of bondage, we don't need Moses. All we need to do is perform the right ritual and invoke the right spirit. And we can be out of this thing called oppression. Do you understand what I mean? Research the story of, what's his name, Damien Echols, who was sentenced to die. He was put on death row. And he said for 10 years, he practiced magic while he was in the confinement, solitary confinement. And through extraordinary means and measures, they came up with this new law to where he could be released. And he thinks, and he gives credit to magic for doing it for him. We're talking about a man who was wrongly convicted of a crime he didn't do, murder, placed in jail on death row in a cell that was no bigger than a closet. And for, I think it was 10 to 20 years, he practiced magic day in and day out and was released. He was supposed to die several times from lethal injection. Now, if that is not a perfect example of the power of magic and what it can do for you, imagine having a people come together and practice magic, like the 100 monkey syndrome. Like what the Bible tells us, if two or more people agree, then so shall it be. Why can't we do that? That is so simple. But we have been under the spell of individualism. We see ourselves separate from one another, but that's really an illusion because we're not separate, we're connected. Quantum entanglement tells us that we are all connected. Space is an illusion. There is no space. Consciousness has the principle of non-locality. That means that consciousness is not contained in any one fixed point in space and time. It's not. Consciousness is everywhere, hence it's nowhere, no one place. You exist in all levels of space and time, and you exist beyond space and time. So when I was talking to these young fellows and trying to explain to them that you are not the body, you are not the person, you are not the race, you are not the gender, you are consciousness. They couldn't understand that principle because they're deeply embedded in the matrix. And what is the matrix? It's a self-replicating organism. It is an organism that is alive, that is conscious, that is intelligent. Think about that. So Michael Osair says, Hetepu, going into what you said, tapping into the collective consciousness, what do you think we should do for tragic events like those in Nubia, Kemet, Sudan, and the tragedies worldwide? You must understand that the physical things that happen to us have a metaphysical origin to them. So what the great priests and priestesses of Kemet would do, they would take their consciousness back into itself and look at what's going on in the inner planes that is causing this to happen on the physical plane. And if you've been watching my videos and you know, we have to look at ergomores. We have to look at pendulums as the progenitors of these types of things. And all these ergomores and these pendulums, or these topas, as the Buddhists call them, are nothing more than spirits or viruses fulfilling a function they were created for. See, those divisions that you're talking about that are happening in the Sudan, in Nubia, in Kemet, worldwide. And I want people to clearly understand this. There have been atrocities in Russia, in Poland. Africa is, this is, you know, what Africa is going through in terms of the separation and the genocide is nothing new. It's been going on, it has gone on in Europe. But these things have a spiritual component to them that we must address. Hitler could not have come to power if it was not for the occult, because he was an occultist. And the swastika was a sigil. So this, we have to keep that in mind. So the great priest would go into a deep trance state to see what was causing these things on a physical level. Because as above, so below. Keep that in mind. The problem is we're dealing in the left brain Western cultures. We think that everything is about Cartesian logic, that everything has a one-to-one correspondence. A physical dysfunction, therefore, is caused by something physical. No, no. We are so steeped in the tragedy of the left brain that we cannot think straight. We are very sick people on this planet. Because when the Roman Emperor Constantine moved us from right brain thinking to left brain thinking, he destroyed the planet in the process. And now we're fighting now to move the planet back to a right brain, integrated brain way of thinking. Because when you start to work with integrated brain thinking, then your third eye opens and you start to see dimensional beings that you could never see before. Because we're limited right now in the light, the wavelengths of the light that we can see, because we're operating specifically from a limited perspective that comes out of the idea of left brain thinking, which is only concrete thinking. Which is why when you talk about things like the matrix, it being a living organism, a self-replicating organism, science cannot validate that, because you move from science, the left brain, to the right brain, and you have to look at it in a totally different way. And science stops at that point. When you start to do your rituals and you start to practice this on a consistent basis, the first thing you're going to find out is that your third eye will open. You will start to gain more information intuitively, not from reading books, from intuitively, because you're going to connect with the Akashic records. And knowledge and wisdom, you're going to start to just download that information. And you're not going to know where it's coming from. Why did I get that thought? What happened? And constantly, when I'm doing the rituals and I go to sleep, I astro travel to different worlds. So that's another benefit that you're going to experience. So there's a wealth of information, knowledge, and wisdom that's waiting for you if you start to practice this as a way of life. At one point in my life, I tried to do a ritual every day, and that was taxing. But I was so committed, I wanted to do that. I told my wives, no sex for a long time. I'm doing the ritual thing. And they supported me. They were like, yeah, okay, we got you, we got you. But then when you're done, you're not going to get any. I said, okay, well, maybe I'm taking it too much to the extreme. All right. But I kid. So, Magi's, we got work to do. We got work. I want you all to go out there and start proselytizing, start talking about things that are real. And what I mean by that is when somebody comes up to you and say, you're black, you're white, you're this, you're that, you're Asian. No, I'm consciousness. I'm not playing that game. Well, this person was wrong, and I think this person was right. No. I'm indifferent to that. I'm indifferent to that. I'm not placing a label or name or definition because I know life is meaningless. I know nothing has a quality in and of itself. You start to live by this way, okay? Start to live this way. Don't just take it as a cool idiom. Oh, that's a cool saying. No. This is how you live your life. I see something on the news where it talks about the United States is trying to spread democracy to third world countries. I'm not going to get involved in doing that or buying into that. I'm not drinking that Kool-Aid. Because when you do this, let me tell you something. When you subscribe to that, of being Osir, you know what I'm talking about, Michael, being Osir, right? Okay. You know what I'm talking about. When you subscribe to this, of not having the, what's the expression say, dog in the race, and you step back and you look at things objectively without having a vested interest in it, the matrix changes. It can't manifest these bad things that it used to do in your life. It can't do that because you have not subscribed to a definition of what is bad. So the matrix takes a step back and say, whoa, what's he doing? What's she doing? I'm trying to manifest something, but I can't because he stopped believing in definitions and labels and terms and nationalities and genders and race and this and that and none of that. What's he doing? This is tripping me up. Then your world changes, man. Your world changes. Things start becoming nefer. And nefer is the Kemetic word for sweet or nechem. And you'll learn to be centered in at peace. And you won't get swayed all the time when something happens. You'll learn, easy come, easy go, whatever. I feel so sorry for these individuals. You know, I studied a lot about the white supremacist movement, and I studied a lot about the black supremacist movement, and I have never met so many ignorant people in all my life. I mean, I was just baffled by just the, but in order to help them, I said to myself, these individuals will one day become spiritually elevated, and they will. and the planet will change. But right now, you see, the battle you're fighting right now is a manipulated construct, meaning that when you think about, well, the SJWs are the ones causing the problem. There is no SJWs. Well, it's the Asians that are the problem, the Latinos that are the problem. No, you have to understand that the real orchestrators of the problem are the people you'll never see. They're the hidden hand. They're the ones that are calling the shots from behind the curtain. They are manipulating things so that there is strife, there is disharmony, there is death, there is destruction. They're the ones. So if we stop looking to the left and to the right and blaming each other, and we start looking up and saying, who's pulling the strings, then we will be on the right course. But until we do that, we're going to be pawns in their chess game. And it's so sad. It's so sad that people just don't realize what's really going on and how they're being used. You know? Well, the white man is doing this. What? You with the white girl? You know what they could do to you? I'm like, oh, shit, man. You don't get it, do you? You just don't get it. We're all connected. We're all one consciousness. I know what they can do to me if I say that they can do it to me, because I'm commanding them and giving them that power if I say it. Because my spirit has no choice but to manifest it. Yeah, but don't you know what they did in history? They oppressed us. I know that. And they will be held accountable for it. But you keep saying it over and over again doesn't make it go away. Doesn't change anything. Rather, tell yourself, I'm a powerful being. I am God. Whatever I speaketh manifests. If I say it is, then it is so. What would happen if you truly believe that? Then the matrix would have to manifest it. But if you keep telling yourself you're human, if you keep telling yourself you're fallible, if you keep telling yourself that, well, I am the race, I am the physical body, I am limited in my power, I don't have any control, I'm a pawn, I can't do that, I can't do this, so-and-so did this against me, they're evil, they're wrong. Keep telling yourself that, and I'll pray for you. Anyway, my beloved, this is Kisank Ma'at Keparu, son of Ma'at and Tahuti. My aunt is the beautiful goddess Hedaru. Until my next broadcast, I'm in the